Coffee with the Editor is proudly brought to you by IRZ and the Railway Safety Regulator, RSR.
Simon, thank you for joining me here at the Rail Safety
Pleasure.
Regulator's annual Rail Safety Conference. This is what we call a mini coffee with the editor with Railways Africa, so it's lovely to meet you. What is your role with this conference this year?
So, in actual fact, I was invited by the Railway Safety Regulator, by Herman Brewer, who's the acting Chief Operations Officer at the Regulator, to bring a European perspective into the event.
UIC, Union International Rail, safety is a big priority for the UIC.
Excuse me.
You've got the international level crossing
Yes,
awareness.
which I set up.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yep.
So talk to me about safety and the context in terms of this relationship with the Rail Safety Regulator.
So in fact, the safety, obviously being a representative organisation of railway operators, so that's infrastructure managers and the providers of the transport service to the customer. It's really important that safety, being one of the USPs of railways, is kept high profile in order that that rail can still maintain its market position. It has to work hard to do that, but to maintain its market position as the safest form of land transportation, which it is. It is very, very close to the same risk of fatality levels with aviation, but in terms of land transportation, it's miles ahead of everybody else. But we still have to work hard. We can't be complacent with that. We have to work hard to maintain that level of safety. And one of the things that we've done at the UIC is to ensure that we have a database that we've been running since 2002, which is now sort of 20 odd years of empirical data, which we are now able to use to analyse trends, mostly in Europe, I have to say, because most of the operators, we have one operator now in the Middle East, the Iranians, who are actually now feeding information into this database as well. So, which means that we can start. We're able to compare and contrast the levels of risk in at least in Europe. And then if there is a similar structure already in, for example, in Africa, which the regulator is starting with the data that they are able to, and we've seen in the report today, then it's possible, of course, then to undertake some kind of contrast between the two, and just to sort of be able to compare. But level crossings is one of the most important, in fact, if not the biggest safety risk to railways. Because it's in fact it's the third-party element of the level crossing, which you just cannot manage. You can obviously put controls in place with barriers and lights and all kinds of technical and engineering-led solutions, but the person themselves, the person actually making some kind of silly mistake, it's very, very difficult to manage.
Sure.
Yep.
Yes.
Very.
So what are the key points from your presentation that you'll be giving?
So the key point from the presentation is the fact that, a little bit like here, some of the trends are going the wrong way now, so there's a bit of work to be done around that. Level crossings, I'm glad to say, however, is an area where I've noticed that you've got a bit of a rising trend here, but in Europe it's still decreasing, and that's very positive. And I have to say that one of the concepts that we've introduced with this annual awareness day is something which is working very well. It helps people to focus, to have a focal point, albeit only once a year, but it helps people to have a focal point, and they're all around Europe and beyond, because there's now the Americans, the Canadians, and others are involved as well. And why not the South Africans? I mean, perhaps there's an opportunity there for the ILCAD campaign to get more engaged, or for the South African to get more engaged in ILCAD, which would be very good. And it gives people the awareness, the opportunity to, over the year, to be able to do to build up the program, and then to be able to have a big sort of rollout, as it were, of all the initiatives
Yes.
on the day itself. Next year's will be in the beginning of June in York, in the United Kingdom, and Network Rail will be hosting that. And then after that, there are opportunities. I mean,
Yeah.
if South Africa wanted to say, come to South Africa and help us to run the flag up the mast, as it were, then that would I'm sure we'd be delighted. But,